Hi all. I just finished meeting with a lecturer, so can please excuse me for 2 minutes. Okay, better. Okay, so hi, good afternoon, everyone. Do you have class before this that end at 4 p.m.? Oh, ended at 3. Oh, okay lah. You already rest about 1 hour. Okay. I drink first. Okay, so today we will do the lecture that's supposed to be tomorrow. And last week, if I'm not mistaken, we have stopped at system testing. So let me double confirm where we have stopped last time. Okay, so yeah, confirm. Last time we have finished all of chapter 6, which is software testing. So let me record the meeting first. Okay, so this week we will cover the software testing is chapter 7. So this week is chapter 8. Okay, so chapter 8 is about user interface design. Okay. So actually, this user interface design is the process you do before you proceed to the software testing. Okay, so you all can see our chapter here, right? Okay, so this architectural design, user interface design, design concept and principle, real-time system design should be designed before the process of implementation, which is the coding. So after the coding, which we will not cover in this software engineering course, but so after the implementation or the coding phase, so we will go to the software testing. But we already covered the software testing lah. Okay, so now we go back to the design, user interface design, and then next week we will go to the design concept and principle, and next week we'll go to real-time system design. Okay, so just although that we already learned about software testing, but I hope all of you will not confuse which is first, which is first, which is second, the arrangement or the phases, the step of the software development life cycle. So remember, the design is before the implementation. Okay, so the testing will be after the implementation. So now we proceed to the user interface design. Yeah, I actually didn't receive any feedback from the test. So far so good. Is all the calculation is correct? Is all the calculation correct? You don't have any questions, correct? Oh, okay. So your marks will be final lah if you don't have any problem with that. Okay, so if no questions from all of you about your test, then we proceed to our chapter 8 lah, which is the user interface design. Okay, so remember this user interface design, it should be done during the design phase, which is before the implementation or coding. Okay, so just imagine that you do the design after you get the SRS, after you produce the SRS. Okay, so these are the process of how you design the user interface design. UI is user interface design process. First, you will need to analyze and understand user activity. I think I get the deja vu about this. Did you all think that we already covered this? Maybe it is. No. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I think I have a deja vu. Confirm lah. So we proceed lah. Okay, so this is the process. When you want to start to do the user interface, to design the user interface, this is the first process that you will need to do. First, you have your SRS, you make it as the Bible lah, as like it's kind of a Bible or Quran lah if you are Muslim. So it is no matter, it is like a Bible or a book that will guide you when you want to do design. So in this case, when you want to do design, then you make your SRS as the guidance of all of the design lah, implementation lah, testing, all of the process after the requirement engineering will need to go or will need to start from the SRS. So remember, SRS is the most important document during SDLC. So during the UI design, you will need to analyze and understand the user activity based on the SRS that you produce. So after that, you will need to produce paper-based design prototype. So maybe you just do some sketch to draw the flow of the system. Whatever you imagine the process, so you sketch it on the paper. So after that, this process will produce the output, which is design prototype. Okay, so after you have come out with design prototype, you need to evaluate the design with the end user. You go to your user and then you show your sketch to them and then ask them to evaluate either the flow that you have sketched or the flow or the UI that you have sketched meet with their satisfactions or requirement or not. So if they are not satisfied, then you can go back to office and then redesign again. And then it is repeating until the user or the end user satisfied with your sketch lah, with your design prototype. Okay, so this process will be repeated. So if finally the end user satisfied with your prototype, then you can proceed to produce the dynamic design prototype. Meaning maybe if previously you just sketch it on the paper, so now you can sketch it using you can make it digital already lah. Meaning you use maybe all of the HTML or CSS. Okay, so you make it digital. So what will be the output for the dynamic design prototype, which is the executable prototype. Executable prototype is actually, it is not fully function system, meaning we still don't have the process behind, meaning the back end process is still not done, but we already can click. When we click the button on the interface, it already can go to the next page. Okay, so the purpose of this executable prototype is to make the user see the behavior of the system when you click either link or button or any label. When you click it, what happened? So that is what it means by executable prototype. So after that, you will need to evaluate that executable prototype to the end user again, and then you show the executable prototype to the end user, and then until they're satisfied lah. Okay, so that process memang will repeating until they have no more comment. And then after that, you can implement the final user interface after they have agreed with the executable prototype. Okay, so when you do the designing for the user interface, there will be some issue that we will need to take into considerations, which is the system response time, and then user help facility, and then the error information handling, and the command labeling. Okay, so we will dig deeply about each of these in our next slide. Okay, wait lang. Okay, so let me check first now. So for the system response time is I think all of you know lah actually what is the system response times, meaning when you do something to the system, how much time it takes to give you feedback. So that is the response time. So make sure it didn't take a lot of time. For example, more than 1 minute lah. 1 minute for just one click is too much already actually. So it is best if few less than 10 seconds lah at the best. Okay, so after that, user help facility. So these issues is to make the user uh, access the help facility easily without making them like tercari-cari. Okay, so they want some kind of help. So maybe when you do the system, make sure the help facility is available all the time. Okay, so for example, the help lah, where in every software, I believe there will be about, and then after that help, or maybe there will be help and then after that about. Okay, so the help facility is really useful, especially for the new user, because they need someone or something to teach them. Okay, so after that, error information handling. So for example, if your system cannot receive some type of input, we should give a meaningful message to the user so that they know what to do next. Okay, so when your system experience error but your system only diam-diam silence without any feedback, then your user also waiting until we don't know, until they fed up lah. Okay, so I mean it is important for us uh, to take into consideration, not take into consideration lah. I mean to make it always available. If we need something from the user, or if our system produce some error, we need to give the user some meaningful message that will tell the user what is happening. Okay, so after that, the common labeling. So when you do the design, you only, I mean, the icon is good. Some of the icon, when you just put icon, it makes your user interface interactive lah, attractive. But if you just put the logo without some meaningful labeling, people usually don't know. Just by looking at any icon or logo, they cannot assume what that button is used for actually. So it is important that every logo, every icon that you put on your interface, you should also do some labeling. But labeling, you can make it when we hover that icon, then baru the labeling should appear lah. Okay, so yeah, the use of common labeling is also important. important in the design. Okay, so we proceed to the two modes of design. So the first is text-based mode, and then after that GUI-based mode. So you all know lah, this is of course GUI, and then this is text-based mode. Okay, so which is more attractive? I just want to make all of you speak or feedback lah, although I know the answer already. So which is actually attractive in your eyes? One or two?
The two.
Okay, yes. Yeah, two. Okay, so yeah, of course lah. All of us, I am not sure if anybody of you here that find this text is more attractive, but for me, I prefer GUI lah. Yeah, so that's why, because all of us are attracting or attracting to a GUI, so that's why we all need to learn on how to create a good GUI lah. Okay, so we proceed. Okay, so a characteristic of GUI. So usually a GUI, which is graphical user interface, will have this component or this characteristic, which is Windows, icon, menu, pointing, and graphics. Okay, so I'm sure you all know what is this Windows lah. This Windows is like this. Your one browser is the Windows. This is one Windows. Your one tab is one Windows. Okay, so I'm sure all of you know what is Windows. The icons. In case you all don't know lah, we open our intranet. Our website. So this is Windows, one Windows. This is icon. And then this is menu. This is pointing. When I hover here, you can see the hand, so it is a pointing. And then graphics. Okay, so we can see that there's something moving here. Okay, so this is the graphics. So you know lah, all of GUI usually will have this characteristic. Okay, so why we need GUI? Because it is easy to learn and use, and then it is enable us to have a multiple screen, and then it is fast and full screen interaction. This is the advantage of GUI compared to the text-based GUI. Okay, so this is the three golden rules of a good UI design. So first is you need to place the user in control, meaning to say that this is because people do not like to be controlled by the machine, and they like to know the status of the operation or the system. So this is actually referring to the when you do some process, for example, installing a new program to your system. Okay, so it is good to have the navigation feature. Like we know how many percent is already installed, and then we need to wait for how many percent more. Okay, so because we need to know, the user would like to know the status of the operation of the system. So by using the navigation feature, so we can make the user feels like they are in control, meaning they are controlling the system, not the machine control them. Okay, so that is what it means by place the user in control. Okay, so like this one lah. Either you give them navigation bar, or you're telling them that something is still processing. Okay, so or something's loading. Okay, so you may show them how many percentage. Okay, so and then after that, the second golden rules for good UI design is to reduce the user memory load, which is it means people have limited short-term memory and they make mistake when they handle too much info. Okay, so this is related to the how consistent your design is. For example, your first the location or the positions of the menu of your system. Okay, so maybe in the first page you make where's the tally you see. Now, okay, so maybe in the first page you put all of the menu here, and then after that, when you click something here in the second page lah, all of the menu is all pindah, move here. Okay, so when the user experience something like this, it makes them think that either they are still in the same system or they are moved to another system already. And then that makes them to learn new thing. Because for example here, if your system is different, has a different position of your menu, so it will makes them to learn new thing every time they move to another page. So avoid something like that, make it consistent. So how is like what our Tari Yusti web did lah right now. Okay, so whenever you click any menu, the skeleton of the system is still there. The menu is still on in the same position, and then even though it doesn't matter in which menu you go, it's still there, so that the user will not need to learn new thing whenever they move to one page to another page. So another example is, for example, the Microsoft Office. You all know, right? Microsoft Office, they have Microsoft Excel, Access, Word, PowerPoint, Project. What you see? I mean, what is the similarity between all of the Microsoft Office product? May I get an answer from any of you? What did you see in Microsoft Office product? What is the similarity between all of the product that I mentioned previously?
Everything is for workspace. Only for office lah, I think.
Okay, so how about the GUI, the graphical user interface? What is the similarity in terms of the GUI for each of the product?
Easy to understand, easy to use.
Yeah. Easy to use, easy to understand. There's a reason for why we easy to understand all of the product.
The same format.
Okay, so Shak also have answer here lah, the toolbar. All of the menu are positioning at the same position, right? Okay, so whenever we just open the Microsoft Word, and then after that we open Microsoft PowerPoint, we don't need to learn anything new because we know that they are consistent. We know that when you want to create new file, you just go to the file and then you just click the new. Okay, so because every product of Microsoft having the same consistent menu. So this is the good example of our second good golden rules for good UI design. Okay, yeah. My laptop is hanging already. Okay, so it is the example of this second golden rules where the Microsoft Office product able to reduce the user memory load. Okay, so although maybe some of you have never used Microsoft Access previously, but later when you open Microsoft Access, I'm sure you all will know at least how to make new file for Microsoft Office, Microsoft Access, because it really have the same interface with the Excel. Okay. So the good example of reduce the user memory load is the Microsoft Office product lah. Okay, so after that, the third golden rules for a good UI design is make the interface consistent. Okay, so this is also more or less connected to the second golden rules just now lah, because all of the interface are consistent. Okay, so it is easy to learn and the knowledge that is learned in one command or application is applicable in other parts of the system. So, okay, so this is actually also referring to the example that I gave just now lah, which is the Microsoft Office product. So this is all the Microsoft Office product. Okay, so we proceed. We proceed to the UI design principle, which is first, when we want to design our UI, the graphical user interface, we need to set in mind that the customer first. Okay, so it is like customer always right lah. Okay, so because we are designing the UI for them to use. Okay, so we need to identify the needs of the customer. Okay, so after that, we also need to consider the experience of the customer or the end user of our system. So we need to make sure the level of their experience, the level of their, either they are IT tolerant or not, either they are IT expertise or not. Okay, so because some of user, they are still are not IT literate. IT literate. Okay, so some of our user is not IT literate. So our responsibility is to make our design is also applicable or can be used by that kind of customer, which is the non-IT literate customer. And then their capability also lah. Some of our user not even have SPM. Okay, so we really need to, if our user also coming from all type of educational background. Okay, for example, our My Sejahtera lah. It is used by all Malaysian, right? So all Malaysians are coming from different educational background. So it is the responsibility of the My Sejahtera developer to make sure that My Sejahtera is actually not only can be used by the computer literate user, but also the non-computer literate. So my mother, she cannot read, but when I install the My Sejahtera, and then because we will need to scan every time we go to shop, right? Because this My Sejahtera, I can say that it is a little bit okay lah. because even my mother, who is actually cannot read, also can use my Sejahtera to scan. So I think it is good enough lah. Okay, so because she can use to scan, she can use my Sejahtera to scan, so I think my Sejahtera okay lah for me. It is actually subjective lah. UI design is actually subjective. So that's why whenever we have designed our UI, we need to show it to the real user because they are the one who use it. Okay, so sometimes we think it is already okay lah, cantik already, but when we show it to them, they are not really like it. Okay, so that is why we need to put the customer first because their opinion, their eyes is matter the most in designing the UI. Okay, so after that, still in the customer first, which is user familiarity. Okay, so we need to make sure that the user is familiar or easy to familiar with the UI that we create. For example, the term and concept and library system. So this is actually some of the example that is familiar things when we are using system. Okay, so library system is familiar for student. Term and concept, I think it is familiar to all of user that use software because software will surely have this term and concept. Okay, so after that, consistency. Okay, so for example, this consistency is meaning to say that we activate the operation in the same way. So I think this example, the example for this, we can take the Microsoft Office just now lah, because all of the Microsoft Office product are activated or operated in the same way. Okay, so it has the same option, it has the same way of doing almost all of the things except for its special feature lah. For example, the access, it only can do database things lah. But other than that, all of this the feature is the common feature. It shares the same way or behavior with the other Microsoft Office product. And then minimal surprise. So minimal surprise is like I think if your first page and your second page don't introduce too much new thing in the second interface. Okay, because we want to minimal surprise. Maybe if you think that you want the customer to be focus on your system, and then you make your first interface in red, and then after that in the second page you make it in green. Okay, so it is too much surprise lah for the user. Okay, so because like I said previously, maybe they will think they are in a different system because it has different color already. So they don't, of course they will think that, am I still in the same system or not? Okay, so minimal the surprises. Make it, it is, it is, go back to the consistency lah. Okay, so make it minimal. The UI must be minimal, and the color, all of your design must be consistent from all of the pages of your system lah. And then beside the example that I said just now, another example is, for example, when you want to shut down your system, and then you can make, for example, the confirmations box Okay, so usually or another button that asking for confirmations. Okay, so don't make it like you click one button, for example, shutdown button, and then it is terus shutdown. If the user accidentally click that button, how? Okay, so it is also the same with the button like delete. Okay, so if you didn't put any confirmations action when you click the delete, so imagine if the data is very important and you accidentally click the delete button. So it will be chaos lah. Unless you are the programmer, you have the access to the database, and then you can add the and then you know what was the information that has already deleted, then you can restore it again lah. But usually if you are the user, of course you will be panicking lah. Okay, so after that, recoverability, for example, you have some functions that can undo the 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 action lah. Okay, so what Microsoft Office have lah. Okay, so user guidance, you always provide help. The help is always available in every page, so that people will not have the hard time to find the help when they need it. Okay, so after that, feedback on errors. Your system having something or experiencing something in the background, we should tell the user what is happening. Okay, so after that, user diversity, we also need to take into consideration the experienced user versus the beginner. Okay, so that is why we need to make sure our design is minimal as it can. Okay, so you can provide the step-by-step installation for the beginner. Okay, so even though we know that our system will be used by the experienced user, but since we know that our system is also used by the beginner, so we still need to tackle all of the requirements. So we maybe no need to do anything for the experienced user, but we still need to do the manual installations for the beginner. Okay, so this we proceed to the key issue in interface design. Beta. I mute the WhatsApp first. I don't want to be bothered. Okay, so now we proceed to the key issue in interface design. So our interface design should provide info to the user. The user should provide info, meaning you need to trigger something to the system, and the system will present the info or result to the user. Okay, so for the user to provide input or info to the system, there are few types, which is first direct manipulations. For example, you resize the graphic, or you zoom in or zoom out any map in the system. Okay, so the second way is by clicking the menu. Okay, so the user can provide the info or can trigger something to the interface by using menu, meaning you select any menu from the user interface. Okay, so the third, I think this is second. This is actually the third. So the third way of how the user can provide info to the system is by command line. Okay, so I'm sure you all know about the command line lah, the CLI. Okay, so after that, okay, so this is the CLI. Okay, so who remember the first, who remember the syntax of how to check your IP address? This is just FYI saja. It is not apa. FYI. Who knows the syntax? Forgot. Yes, IP config. Correct. Yes, IP config. I also only remember few syntax. But as usual, we can always type help to have or to see another syntax lah. Okay. So this is the third way of how the user can provide info to the system. After that, the natural language. Okay, so this is especially when your system support the voice control. Okay, so for example, our Android can accept their Google Assistant or Siri in Apple iPhone. So we can just use our voice lah, delete the file name or play me a song or tell me a joke. Okay, so the Google Assistant or Siri can provide us the info lah. Okay, so how the system will present the info to the user is by first we need this is the factor that we need to consider when we want to present some information to the user. First, the data visualization. Second is the color. Okay, so data visualizations. Which is you all think which is better? Either it is either it is used textual or graphical presentations. Okay, so which is you prefer? Either like this or there's a text. There's a text that's saying that in January the data is 2842, and then in February the data is 2851, and then March 31664. Yes, so of course, I think all of you also will prefer, graphical presentation will be the better. So when you do or when you design interface to present the info to the user, it is better to take into consideration to just use graphical presentations like this because it is more understandable. When you just look at this, we can directly make our brain can understand this faster compared to the textual, because if we are using textual, our brain will work twice. First is to read, and then second is to convert or to imagine what you are reading. Okay, so using graphical presentations is better in data visualization. Okay, so we can use a lot of graphical data visualization technique lah, pie chart lah, a meter chart lah, a bar chart lah, gun chart lah, okay, all of the charts lah. Okay, so this is how we usually show the pressure. This is the temperature. Okay, so we know that. So by using this graphical presentation, we can see that there's, I think it is the pressure is only 100 lah, and then we know directly that the maximum pressure should be the 400, and then for the temperature also we know that the temperature, the the highest that this info can load is up until 100. And then we know the current temperature is 75. Okay, so this is your exercise. Suggest a scenario to use textual presentation and another scenario to use graphical presentations. Okay, so you need to think what kind of scenario that is suitable to use text, and then what are the scenario that is suitable to use graphical presentations. You all can maybe put your answer in our chat.
For coding?
Okay. Pardon, Kelvin? Did you say something just now? Coding. Oh, okay. So you can use coding, textual to represent coding, and then the graphical presentations. Textual use coding. Okay, graphical like pie chart lah. Others? For final UI for website. You mean for the graphical lah, Kelvin? Here slide set for weather. Graphical is for end product for user to see. Okay, Farah said here slide set for weather map. Ala, Farah already look at the slide. No, the text meaning it is not for just the command line. I mean, whatever info that can be presented by just text, not only by using the command line. Because there are some scenario, not all information we can represent using chart or graphical, right? Yes, news. News can use text. Chat box we use now. It is for graphic. Yes, it is for text, right, Elvin? Okay, so yeah, actually yes. Graphical is for end product for user to see. Yeah, so actually the questions here is what kind of information that can be suitable to be represented by text, and what kind of data that is suitable to be represented by graphical presentation. So like what Shak said, that news should be presented using text because, for example, when there are some event happening, it is hard to transform it into graphical, right? So we can use text to tell or to display information about news. Okay, so the example here, okay, so for the textual presentations, you can use textual presentation if you want to display the customer details, order details, accounts balance details, and etc. and news lah, like what Shak suggested. Okay, so because can you imagine how we can represent the customer details in graphical? If it is only, for example, the informations or the details of one customer, and then you put it in a graphical, I think it is memakan ruang. it is using a lot of space lah. So I think for some of the details or the information that cannot be represented. In short, this cannot be represented by chart lah. Okay, so we can use textual presentation lah. Okay, so after that, for the graphical presentation, for example, the weather information, like what Farah said lah just now. Okay, so Farah already checked the slide lah. Okay, so weather information gathered from a number of sources is shown as the weather map with isobars, weather, fronts, and so on. So the state of the telephone network is displayed graphically in the network management center. Okay, so here I think the second example here, the state of the telephone network. So the state is either the telephone network is in a good condition or not. Okay, so when we see the it is graphically displayed in a network management center. So usually they will have a big room, a big TV that will show the maps, and then on the map there will be the position of each of the telephone that is under their management lah. And then after that, they will see the state or the condition of each of the telephone. Either it is defected or functioning. So if there's one telephone network that have a defect, they can directly ask the maintainer to go to the location and fix it. So that is usually that kind of information can be best presented by using graphical presentation. So this is the weather example. Okay, so imagine if we explain all of this using text. Okay, so of course I also don't want to read lah. Okay, so it's like reading journal. Okay, so I think if we translate this into text, I think maybe 5 page can reach lah. It can up until 5 page just to explain this. Okay, so we proceed to the use of colors. Okay, so when so these are the commonly error that is always found during when you use color. Okay, so usually color will use to communicate meaning. So the color on a website should communicate meaning it should have a meaning. Okay, so for example, some color will give different perception for some user. And then, for example, for the people that has the color blind, okay, so they usually cannot differentiate two color. Who knows? For the person who are colorblind, they cannot differentiate two color. Who know about that two color? Blue and green, no. Who knows? One of your gray and white, no. Farah already guessing one color correct. Yes, Elvin also have. Daniel, yes, red and green. Okay, so people who are color blinded, actually they cannot differentiate green and red. So that's why people who are colorblinded cannot drive because what is the color of our traffic light? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so when you use color, don't just suka-suka hati use green, suka-suka hati use red. Oh, he can drive. He get the license lah. He passed the test because usually we will have tests, right? Of course we will have tests somehow. Maybe he has somewhere lah. Yeah, pro already lah maybe. Or maybe I am not sure either. We now have the technology or the spec for the colorblinded lah. I also don't know. But hopefully ada sudah lah. Yeah. So yeah, that's why if you are colorblind, usually that's why they will filter you. That's why we have the test for the color. Because usually people who are colorblind memang cannot differentiate red and green. Okay, so when you want to design your UI, don't suka-suka hati use any color that you like. So maybe because you like green a lot, then you use green a lot. Okay, so because some of the color, that's why we need to learn in deep when you are a graphic designer or someone that is involved in design UI. So need to learn. You have one topic or you need to learn a lot about color. But for me, I am not interested lah. I'm not the graphical punya orang. Okay, so too many colors or color too bright. So avoid this. Too many colors or avoid to use the color that is too bright because it is not comfortable and it can lead to the confusions. Yes, because we are not sure actually when you see in a website or in a system it is too colorful and it is not for the kids because of course usually kids like a lot likes the colorful things, right? But if the system is not for kids and then it is too many color and then we don't know actually which is the highlight one in the website. Okay, so because all of if you imagine that there's a orange, there's a red, and then all of the color is bright, so we don't know. Usually for the bright color, it is used to highlight some important thing, right? But if it is too much color in one web page, and then there's also information on that web page, we actually don't know which one to focus, which one is more important in that website. If there are too many colors and the colors also too bright. Okay, so the number of the color, so this is the guideline when you want to use the color lah. So for the windows, make sure you can use less than 5 color. Okay, so for the interface, you use less than 7. But I think also even 6 also too much lah for me. For me, I like up until 3 color. But it is actually based on, because colors is also a subjective thing. But this is the common guideline lah. But for me, I think 6 also is too much. But for me lah, because this is just the general guideline. But for me, 3 is at most 3 lah for me. But our guidelines say that if you want to develop interface, make sure it doesn't have more than 6 color, meaning it must be less than 7. How about you all? What is the number of colors that you think maximum for an interface should have? 6. 3. Okay, Shak also 3 lah. You also same with me lah. Wow. Vincent said, Farah said 6. Yeah, of course lah. You are following this guideline, right? But it is actually subjective lah. As long as we have this guideline, so don't over than 6 lah. Because it is the expert says, it is not me. Because I'm not expert in color. If you ask me, there's because some people say that women or girls can differentiate a lot of color, but it is not for me. I am also like almost all of the people who cannot differentiate, which is light red, bright red, the turquoise la, pala, I don't know. I only know the basic color. Okay, so color change of the status. Okay, so only do the color change if you want to change the status. Okay, so for example, if you want to tell that there is an error, then usually people will put red because this is bright, and then this is telling that you need to pay attention to that status. Okay, so like the telecom just now lah, the status of the telecom in previous example. So usually people also will use the indicator, the color indicator, like the traffic light. Red for something that has error, green is for something that is functioning, and then orange is something that is under maintenance. Okay, so like last time I didn't involve with the telecom network, but maybe I have told you all about the street light the system. Okay, so we also use the same lah. Okay, so we use red to determine either the street light is having a defect, and then green if that street light doesn't have any defect, and orange if that street light is under maintenance. Okay, so another guideline when you are using color is you must consistent. So usually people will use red as danger, or you need to pay attention to the red. Red means stop. Or yeah, so meaning red is something that you really need to put attention. Okay, so so the color pairing. When you use the color pairing, among these two, which one do you prefer? The blue or the green? Noel green, Farah green. Okay, Elvin green. Anybody here likes the blue? How about Celine? Green. Okay, yeah. Okay, so why? Okay, so why do you all like this green? There must be a reason why you choose the green, right? Ice pen. Background not bright. Okay, color balance, color to opposite. More comfortable. Yeah. So this color is more soft if you compare with this. This is too bright. Okay, so too bright, and like all of you said, like the color balance is not really good. It is not comfortable to see this. It is making your eyes pain. Okay, so yeah, so you also need to use not too bright color when you do UI design. Okay, so avoid using something like this. This is the bad example of color pairing where the color of the background is as the same level, or it is bright, the same with the text. Okay, so if the text is already bright, make sure the background is a little bit soft, like what greens, like this text lah, this green. Okay, so this is good because yellow is already bright, but it is like normalized by the softness of the green. So it is good lah, good for our eyes. Okay, so make sure for the color pairing, all, don't use the bright color for the background and for the text. Okay, so there's another. Which is better among these three? Still green, black one, black, green and black. Yeah. Because this is subjective, but all of us agree lah. The bad one, the paling bad here is this blue lah, right? But all of us agree that this green and black is better than the blue. But I think if you want to highlight something, the black one is better lah, because we really see it clearly. Welcome to Tariusi. For this one, it is still good, but this green one is still good, but when you want to highlight something, if you compare it with the black one, this black is clear. But I can say that it is based on your purpose lah. I think the pretty one is the green one, but if you want to if you want to prioritize them based on the purpose, I think if your purpose is to want to highlight the the text of your UI, then you can choose this way lah, because this is really highlighting the text. This one is soft to our eyes, so it is depending on your own preference. Okay, so we proceed to our before we go to this, I think we can have a 5 minutes break. It is already 1 hour lecture. Okay, so we go back at 5:20. 6 minutes break lah. Okay, so we meet again at 5:20. Okay, so we are here again. I hope you all are still here. No worry, because soon we will finish our lecture lah for today. Okay, so we proceed to the design factor in message wording. So what is this? This is actually the factor that you need to consider when you design any error message or dialogue message or some message that you want to present to your user. Okay, so these are the 5 factors that you need to consider when you want to design the message wording in your maybe error handling, in your step-by-step manual, user manual. Okay, so first you need to design the message wording based on context lah. Okay, so for example, if you are doing the accounting system, so maybe when there are any error in their debit credit, then you are using the correct terms. So because I am also don't know but what is debit and credit, but make sure you are using the correct context based on the user lah. Okay, so if the system is used by the accountant, then you can use the term from accounting lah, like debit, credit, what else interest. Maybe there's some error that okay, your debit is lower than your credit, so the error is, for example, there is no balance between debit and credit. I'm not sure lah either it is correct or not because it is accounting. So maybe if it is if the system is used by the architect, then you can use some the words that is usually used by the architect. Okay, so that is the context. Meaning you design the word based on your user, based on the system. If the system is the accounting system, then of course you can use the word or the term that is familiar to the accountant. Okay, so after that, the experience and the skill levels lah. So these experience and skill levels often coming together. So when you design the message wording for some for your system, okay, so you need to take into consideration the user experience and their skill level. Okay, so we will see later the example of experience level and skill level. Okay, in our next slide. And then after that, the style. Okay, so some user maybe, for example, if your user is a kid, okay, so maybe you can use some catchy type of font. Okay, you can using comic or some of the attractive font lah. But if your user is a veteran already, someone that is older, okay, so they usually is more likely to see some words that is formal, like Times New Roman, all of the familiar or always use type of font. Okay, so yes, and you also can use bigger font. Okay, for the older, for our elders. Okay, and then don't use so catchy font lah. Okay, because some of them they are bad in they cannot see clearly already. So if it is too much art in the wording, then it makes them hard lah to read that. And then the culture. Okay, so maybe if the system or if the system is used in Malaysia, so Malaysia almost use for example in the government, government service, for the government. Our government is using Bahasa Malaysia as the Bahasa Perantaraan, right? So maybe if you are uh, developing a system for them, so maybe you use a Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa Malaysia. And then if you are using English, and then if I'm not mistaken, Malaysian English is influenced by British English, so we can use the English, the British English lah. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not so sure. But because if I'm not mistaken, we are using British English lah, not the UK English. Okay, so when we are using English, so because of Malaysian English is influenced by the British English, so we can use the spelling from the British English. Okay, so if the example of the differentiation between British and the UK is the use of Z and S. The example of the words is sterilize. Okay, wait. I'm sure you all know, right? Color. Yes, color. Okay, something like this lah. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of example actually, but I'm not so expert in English. Yes, civilize and civilize. Yes. Okay, so we need to design our message wording based on the culture for the culture of the user. Okay, so for whom you create that system for. Okay, so we proceed to the example of experience and skill level. Okay, so here, for this kind of message wording, who do you think should is the user for this system? Either they are highly skilled or they are just beginner. Highly skilled user or a beginner. For this kind of message wording, all. Error number 27, invalid patient ID. Bad file name. Illegal operation. Yes. So usually this kind of error only can be known by developer. Okay, developer. Bad file name indicating that, for example, in the file name that is stored, there are actually maybe a symbol that is not allowed to be a name or for a file. Maybe there are a space in the name of the file. So the system usually cannot store this kind of file name because usually system cannot store, cannot allow the space, cannot allow any symbol. Okay, when you save a file that has a space, then it cannot be allowed. So this is usually only can be known by the expert. And then the illegal operations, usually this is only can be known by the expert because when we click something and then it says illegal operation, then the expert already knows the illegal operations it means lah, the system means. And then invalid patient's ID, meaning maybe we are entering the wrong error message. So usually this kind of error, especially if it says the error number blah blah blah. Okay, so error number 404. Okay, so usually it is only can be known by highly skilled computer literate lah. So in this case, maybe developer lah. Okay, so can the beginner know what is the bad file name means? No, right? They don't really even know what is it means by bad file name. Okay, so this example is for the beginner. Okay, so this is really step by step. Okay, so if you see this, patient diabetes is not known to the system. So it really explain what the user should do. So click on patient for a list of non-patient, click retry to re-input a patient name, and click on help for more information. Okay, so this is really explaining what each of these button can do for the user. Okay, so this is the example that the message wording for a beginner. Okay, so beside the message wording, because we use the message wording to help the user of the system, to operate our system smoothly, right? Okay, so beside we provide them with a useful message wording, we also can provide them with various support document for the user. For example, the functional description. Okay, so this functional description document is the descriptions of service of the system. Okay, so introductory manual is like the user manual lah, how to get started, how to access, if you are forgetting your password, what you should click. Okay, so usually the user manual for beginner will be assisted by the screenshot of the screen. And then the system reference manual. So in this document, it will list out the description of each of the facility. But this kind of document is intended for experienced user lah, because as you see here, it is the system reference. System reference is usually will be used by experienced user because it will tell you the detail of the system. So only the experienced user will understand the description, the detailed description of the system in the system reference manual. So that's why it is only intended to be used by experienced user. Okay, so this is another supporting document where you can provide the user with the installations manual. So this is like how to install the system lah. Okay, so after that, the system administrator manual. So as you all can see here, it is the manual for system administrator. Okay, so this document will tell about how the system will operate and how to do the maintenance. So it is meant for system administrator, which is actually the expert. Okay, so in this topic, usually the famous questions about this topic is you will need to comment a user interface, and then you need to suggest some way to improve it, if any. Okay, so based on all of the guidelines that we have learned so far today, so what do you think about this? What is your comment and how you will improve it? I will ask a student lah. Don't answer first because I want to call a name. I want to ask Ivan. I want to ask Ivan. Yes, Ivan. I want you to comment this. What is so wrong about this interface and how do you think? Okay, so how do you think we can improve it? First thing I see is the color. Yes, which color? Use appropriate colors. What do you mean by appropriate colors? The background color should be white. Yes, and then the text. button color shouldn't be so colorful. Yes. Yes. Okay, so you remember the guideline of the color previously? Maximum how many number of color that should be allowed? 6. So I guess all of you can already calculate how many colors inside this interface. Okay, I can say it is more than 7 lah. Because even the text field also they color it with different color. Okay. Okay, so okay, thank you, Ivan. So I want to ask Russell. So Russell, what do you think? Another factor that is goes wrong in this interface, and then how we should improve it. The field shouldn't arrange like that. Should divide it into section. So how many section will you suggesting? And the example of section. 3 or 4 maybe. Can you please give me the example of section? One section or enough already lah. Student info, yes. Yes. Okay, so let me ask the other student for the other section. Okay, thank you, Russell. So I want to ask Wong, Nyap Hao Wong. What are the other section that you think should be included? Okay, so based on Russell, we shouldn't mix all of these informations in one section, but instead it's better if we divide each of the information based on some section. So one of the section is student info. So what do you think the other section that we can create for this information? Nyap Hao Wong. Okay. So based on Russell, all of this information or this field shouldn't be arranged like this. So instead, it should be divided into few sections. Okay, so for example, based on Russell, the first section we can group all of these white boxes into one section, which is student info, because all of this field is actually the information of the student. So he said that we should have student info section. Okay, so my question is, what are the other section that you can see from this interface that we can create another other than the student info? Yes, for the course choice. Okay, so because there should be the section for only for the course, and then yeah. Okay, so yes, course choice. Okay, so let me ask another student for another section. Nathan, what are the other section that we can create other than the course section and the student section? Yes, Nathan? Okay. Okay, result section for subject. Okay, so enough with the section lah, because actually if you can see here, the color of the text field is actually representing the section of this information. So this white text field is representing the student info. This guidance name, it is like I don't know what is the name of this color, maybe pink, light pink. So it is the information about the apa tu, the guidance section. And then this is the course section, and then this is the SPM results section, or yeah, results section lah, like Nathan said. And I think we have all of that section already lah. Okay, so there's other than that, I want to ask another last student. What else? The item that you think that can be changed, can be improved on this interface. Okay, so I will ask Lim. Okay, Lim, you are the last student that I asked for this. Okay, so I'm no longer asking about header menu. Yes, what about this header menu? What is so wrong with this header? Color should be consistent. Yes. I think that one is already commented by Ivan lah just now. Okay, what else that you can see? The alignment. Oh yeah, yeah. So the alignment, it's what should be improved to the alignment of the menu? Should stick with each other, just give them proper spacing. Center. Kelvin. Okay, so yeah, so it is actually for the alignment of the for this interface. I think it is a little bit subjective lah. For Kelvin, he said it is better if maybe we make it in the center, so that all of the the color here, the menu here only on the center lah. So it is better lah for Kelvin. But for the for Silim, you said that just make it stick together or to each other and give them proper spacing. So maybe some of Okay, so sorry because my connection just disconnected. Yeah, is my voice clear, guys? I, okay, so is my voice clear? Okay, sorry for the this for the internet. Okay, so anybody want to comment what's so wrong with this apa? With this interface, or you don't have idea already? Beside the color, beside the section name, beside the menu. Who else want to try? Because I can see, when I see this, I can see there's one lah, one things that we really need to improve. Add delete print at the bottom. Add delete print. Yeah, okay. Yes, because this is for, I mean, it is like one bunch of menu that is can be stick together, right? It is for this button. It is for all of this information for the student registration. Yes, can be accepted. So anybody else want to try? Use drop down list option, of course. So user no need to bother to fill. Yes, so this is actually what I wanted to say. Okay, so if you all can see here, all of the input menu here, input component here is actually text field. So it is better, for example, for some information that is already fixed, like gender, we only have female and male or others lah, at least. Okay, so we can use drop-down list. Okay, so, and then age. We maybe can put also drop-down list because listing all of the possible number lah. And then DOB, we should put that where we can just click the date and choose from the calendar. Right. Okay, so this also should be drop-down list. English, mathematics, all of this SPM results should be in drop-down list because we only have few options and it is consistent SPM result. It is only A until F. Okay, so we, if we have some fixed input, we should make it in drop down list or option button so that the user will not introduce new error because of they are enter the info wrongly. Okay, so imagine if they put here the OB, like or the age lah. Maybe they write it in text. Okay, so for example 21, so TWENTY 21. Okay, so yeah, so because we want to minimize the error, the input error from the user, so we also need to consider the input component. Okay, so the input component we should, okay, so and then for example IC, here IC, if we want to give the user real guidance, we should put some example. For example, either without the hyphens or with the hyphens, right? Okay, so we should put the with hyphens or without hyphens here. We should give some example for the user for their guidance. Okay, so here also Edge also should give some guidance, the example. For example, 23. Okay, so the DOB also we should put some example. Even though we already put calendar here, but there are some input field that also can accept the text. Okay, so what we can do is we can give the format of the DOB. Okay, either it is DD, MM, baru YY, or MM, baru DD, baru YY. Okay, so that is actually fulfilling the guidance like experience, color pairing. Okay, so you also can comment it based on the UI design principle. For example, you may comment any of your comment here based on whatever principle that we have learned about the color, about the UI principle. Okay, for example, here the user guidance. Like I said just now, for the IC, maybe we need to give some example of the IC input. So by providing example at using the label. Okay, so that is actually fulfilling this user guidance where we put help to the user by putting example in the label. Okay, so that is how you should answer that kind of question just now. You study the error. You study the error of the interface. You study the error of the interface and then you relate it to whatever information or principle or guidance or the color factor that we have learned previously, and then you relate it with this interface. For example, based on guidance of color usage, the maximum number of the color that is used by this interface is already over than 6, more than 6, which is not encouraged. Okay, so which is not encouraged. So it is better if the interface of this system is reduced to below 6. Okay, and then you may say the color of this interface is too bright, so it is better if we use a softer color as the background. So this is based on the color guidance where you can explain lah based on whatever that we learned previously. So that is the kind of popular question for this topic. So you all can prepare lah to comment and become the evaluator of the interface. Okay. Okay, so far so good. Can understand what we have learned previously today? Understand. Okay lah. So can I have raised hand, please? If you all understand, then you can raise your hand. Okay, so good. Did I mention to you all what is the highest number of your tests? Who is the highest? I will not. Yeah, no, not yet. So do you all want to know who is the highest and what is the highest marks for the test? No need lah. Lowest I will not tell lah. Okay, because I think no need lah to tell the lowest. Stay mystery better. Okay lah. So I will not tell all of you lah. You pandai-pandai tahu sendiri lah. Okay, so congratulations once again for your test. There are no student fail and it is good lah. Okay, so I hope you all will improve lah in the future. Yeah, there are no student fail. Okay, alhamdulillah, thankfully. But a lot lah that get A. Okay, so what is the highest? Oh, want to know also Daniel said no need, stay mystery. Okay, so the highest mark is actually, let me double confirm again, 95. Okay? Yes, 95. And the student is Zisheng Wong. Yeah, Zisheng Wong. Okay, so and congratulations, Wong. Okay, so for those who get lower mark, don't be demotivated. Just keep improving. I know that all of you are actually capable, but maybe some of you are just a little bit careless. Okay, so yeah. So we already at the end of our class lah, 5:58 already. So yeah, so bye. Congratulations again, Zisheng Wong. Okay, bye all.